if Dan and I are doing anything with like Leon or for whatever, and we want some privacy in this office, then it's put up the "Don't tread on me" flag and call it
Don't
a day. I'm like, that's pretty
don't
good.
tread on me, and you'll stay out. This is the sock on the door handle of your household.
Yeah, that's right. Looking at the topics we have real quick before I don't want to postpone this anymore, but there's a lot of
It's
things
okay.
we could get into. Talk about like big events and then break it down into kind of like a more of
Well,
a culture.
that's what we're gonna end up doing anyway. So it's okay.
Yeah, I just
That's
as I'm looking, I'm like, all right, so I'd have to like not bring up like okay, because I know Rick and Morty was mentioned, Invincible. Okay, leave that be out. Yeah, Jordan Peterson could fall into that, but also kind of well, no, that would be more of a cultural like, what's going on in the
yeah,
pop.
absolutely. Oh, I mean, there are lots of things we can get into with that, but anyway,
All right,
let's get it started. We'll do the intro. So, you ready to go?
we have an intro. We need to get like this really awesome intro.
I'm gonna do an intro. Just follow my lead on the intro, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right, everybody, we're live. This is the Screaming Walls podcast. Just as you saw, what was that, about 3 weeks ago? Sorry about the hiatus. I'm Nigel. That's Pat. Um,
All right.
the whole point of this podcast is to have people from differing views. We're currently down one of our usual members, the more leftist side of this, so it's going to be real right wing today, boys.
Unfortunately, we're down one.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
Jakai just couldn't make it today. Sorry for everyone who's the Jakai fan of the party. He is generally one of our best reaction guys, so it's going to be slightly more boring.
Yeah.
But the whole point of the podcast is that we have Matt, who was a Trump supporter in 20. Were you a Trump supporter in 2016 as well? I don't remember.
I didn't vote 2016.
Yeah, so
I was on
2016 abstained, but 2020 came around to the Trump train. I have been voting Libertarian the last several elections. I voted for Gary Johnson in
no to be fair.
2016.
My wife voted Libertarian
Yep,
last,
yep.
so
I know.
or
I
well,
I would like to take credit for getting Data to vote Libertarian, but I know that wasn't the case. Um, and then
I
normally we
could.
have Jakaya, who is our more liberal individual. But like I said, he's not here today. So let's get it kicked off. This is a drinking podcast. This Saturday. Um, I don't have my like my standard, almost my signature Four Loco at this point. But I did steal some wine from my wife, and so I'll be drinking this tonight. Matt, what do you got for us tonight?
We got a classy. I just got some good ales going here. I'm not gonna promote any names out there, just get slapped. But I got a good double ale going on.
We're not big enough to get slapped, dude. And who's gonna be mad if you're branding their shit?
I like a variety of different stuff. This week, it's weird. I shift beers just about every other week or so because I can, I suppose. But this week's Long Trail, I like that. I've actually never tried their double bag, and so I've actually really enjoyed it. So that's kind of what the flavor of the week is. So until I go back to porters, which I probably will, this will be what I'm what
Yeah,
I'm drinking.
it's too hot to drink porters down here. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, so
Eight
let's
today, so that
let's.
was a disappointment.
Oh, bummer. All right, so let's hop on into it. We're gonna change up the format just a little bit. I run this on a potato on my laptop. Usually we have more of the high end stuff with Jakaya's super awesome gaming PC. So we're not gonna have a video to watch today. So you guys are just gonna have to look at me and Matt here. But we do have, since we missed a couple weeks on the podcast, we were all really busy. We are just going to be going through a bunch of topics, trying to catch up and see how we feel about these things, get the discussion
It
out
has
there.
been a crazy. It's been a
It has.
crazy
Um,
couple of weeks.
yeah, it certainly has, and in the world too. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, first thing, I know we talked a little bit about this before, Matt. But I guess we should start off, not to necessarily bury the lead, but the end of the Chauvin trial.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
was that a hell of a way to start off.
guilty,
But no,
guilty on all charges. Um, did you catch
you know
any of
what?
the actual like live streams or anything like that?
I jeez, man. It's funny. So I'm living in last week where we're like post that, and there's a bunch of other things. But yeah, it has been a crazy 3 weeks.
Yeah, man,
Uh,
it's been
So
wild.
yeah, guilty of all three. That to me was pretty surprising. And I kind of suspected that there was some manipulation with that. There was no way in my mind I felt that the jurors weren't going to have any kind of pressure. If I won't, they won't ever say that it was political, but it certainly was. Groups like the BLM movement that
Yeah.
these guys obviously getting some hard pressure on, and then well, I suppose now that I think of it, there was some politicians that jumped
Hmm.
in on that train.
Yeah, you had Maxine Waters going wild. Yeah, going
Crazy. And
buck
then she
wild.
doesn't get a page taken down. Whatever. So yeah, guilty of all three, of course, but I don't know if you'd seen it, but even the judge had mentioned, because of the events with BLM and
Hmm.
Maxine Waters, that the judge said that this will more than likely go into appeal. He even told the defendant that,
Absolutely.
pretty much, we'll see you on your appeal just because of the interference that was there.
Oh yeah.
The
Right. Well, even right at the end, the judge even the prosecution actually brought in some information specifically to dispute what the defense had stated about low lack of oxygen and various different ways that this could have been based on, I believe it was like the muff or the exhaust of the vehicle right next to George Floyd's face and things like that. And the defense scrambled to get the same lung doctor in that had really, in my opinion, won them the
I've
case.
never heard that.
Yeah. So they scrambled to bring him back in, and when they brought it forward, the defense had gone, "Hey, this was not in their packet that they sent to us about what they were going to be bringing to the trial, because how a trial works is you have the defense, you have the prosecution. Prior to the trial, they bring all of their pieces of evidence, all of the witnesses they're going to bring, all of the pieces of evidence that they may admit into the actual trial itself, and everything like that. And both sides get to see everything. And so the defense had brought in this expert witness who had said that this could be the reason why he had low oxygen in his blood, and that's why he could have died. That way, it wasn't based. Again, the defense's entire job was to throw dispute and to try and make it unclear as to whether or not Derek Chauvin's knee was the cause of George Floyd's death.
A lot of variables, yeah.
Yeah, they tried to muddle it as much as they possibly could.
Yeah.
And so the defense suddenly tried to bring this guy back in. I think his name was Tubin. Tried to bring him back in to dispute that claim. And the defense went, now hang on a fucking minute. You didn't, that wasn't set up prior to the trial. None of this was set up in such a way. And the judge even went, if you bring up this bit of evidence, I will throw this whole fucking case out. And and like, so the defense, or the prosecution, was really going around it. They still had that guy up on the stand, but they were really trying not to bring that up. And then that Irish dude essentially was like, oh, and by the way, the CO2 content in his blood could not have been done by any kind of exhaust or any sort of way. And so everyone was like, he literally, because I mean, we heard that live. We heard the judge tell them that
I
live.
never.
Yeah, we heard the judge tell them that fucking live. And even on like CNN, they were like, did he just bring up the thing that the judge specifically fucking said not to bring up? like, oh my god. Now, the judge backed down. He didn't end up throw it, obviously. But the biggest thing that I had, all I wanted from this to be in the first place was just be a fair trial. So that way,
Yeah.
no matter what way it turned out, it could be like, we're done with this bullshit. Like it's fucking over. We're wrapped up with it. And the biggest thing that I thought was absolutely insane was that they fought so hard to keep it in the Minnesota or the Minneapolis precinct, and including bringing jurors from there. And it's just like, that was one thing that I scratched my head on. I was like, it's going to be really hard to get an unbiased jury on this case to begin with if you went from a nationwide pool of potential jurors. There is
Absolutely.
no way you could get an unbiased jury from Minneapolis itself. A lot of the people who live there, I mean, when people figured out who they were, it's like, oh, you live right in where all the ridings were happening. Like, you lived right on that street. Like, your apartment was the one that got burned down.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Um,
that was
and that's
yeah.
going to be a big thing in the appeals process from what I bet. I bet you that the defense is going to go, we want a retrial, we want to send this up to appeal, but we absolutely do not want to do it in the fucking city of Minnesota or the city of Minneapolis. We want to go somewhere
Yeah.
else. Um, which, in my opinion, like if you really want to have a fair trial, which a lot of people don't want to have a fair trial, and I can kind of get it. Like they want vengeance, but if like I also don't want to live in a world, or I'd like to be able to say that I don't live in a country that allows mob rule to decide whether or not a man goes to prison for the rest of his life or dies, because we had that in America in the past and it was called Jim Crow and it was super uncool. you know
Well, not only that, but we grow up. When well, at least I did, and I'm sure you did as well. We grew up in the world of when you fucked up, you took your lickings.
yeah,
Like when you screwed up,
yeah,
you got what you got coming to you, and when you did what was fine, and what was when you did good, you were fine. You were good. Nothing happened. So when you fuck up, you fuck up. Like there's
yeah,
punishment, so it
absolutely.
has to be consequential to actions.
Yeah.
So yeah, to have somebody influence like a mob rule,
hmm
it doesn't
i
become fair.
I absolutely, after watching the trial, um I absolutely, I knew manslaughter was going to stick, period. That was like
At
a
the
lost
very
cause,
least, that you, yeah, at the
for the
very least,
defense that was
you
a lost
know,
cause.
yeah.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm sorry. No. I was agreeing with you because when you were talking fair trials, I'm like, well, the whole thing I wanted from this case because the question was in my mind at least when it came to the Derek Chauvin case was Derek Chauvin a dirty cop and was George
Yeah.
Floyd just some fucking meth head? Well, let's find out. Give me all the information here. And really, at the end of it was, well, there
Yeah,
is not
absolutely.
going to be a winner or a loser. Like everyone, I feel like in this particular case, everybody kind of screwed up in some way or form. George Floyd made his series of mistakes, and Derek Chauvin made his series of mistakes, and they led to the following outcomes. And I feel that at the very least, involuntary manslaughter was at least on his belt.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, because I don't believe that there's just nothing in my mind that showed that he had the intent. And that's what you're saying is the intent. Because even to your point was saying that there had to be the defense's job was to bring something that would dispute the idea,
Yeah.
and it really did. There really wasn't even the prosecutor didn't have anything that stuck concrete. They kept throwing words racism like it was gonna stick, and I
Well,
guess it.
the prosecution had quite a bit. Once the prosecution brought in their so the case went like this. The prosecution brought forward the police training witnesses and things like that.
Yeah,
And the defense was, I mean, god tier at just dismantling them. It was insane to watch. He was really good. But once the defense brought in their medical expert witnesses, or once the prosecution brought in their medical expert witnesses, it fell apart for the defense. I mean, it really fell apart for the defense.
yeah,
It really did. I mean, they did a very good job of putting the rest that George Floyd OD'd. They really did a good job of putting that to rest. They had, you know, um, national toxicologists come in with. I mean, they literally had
that's crazy
pulmonary specialists come in, like
level.
the premier expert for like both the United States and the United Kingdom and Ireland.
Yeah,
He came in and he was like, here's exactly how he like laid it out very well. Here's exactly how he died. I think that guy was probably a little too coached because there were times where he was even running ahead of what the lawyer was asking him questions on. So you knew he already knew the questions that were kind of coming, which felt ingenuous or disingenuous.
yeah,
But the real thing for me was when they had the toxicologists come in and they were like, here's the rates of fentanyl that we find in people who are still alive, people who get charged with like DUIs and things like that. And they're like 50 times higher than what was in George Floyd's system at the time of his death, and it's just
I
like,
didn't know that.
ooh, so it really threw out the entire narrative that we were hearing for a while, which was, he had, 10 times the amount of fentanyl in his system and things like that. The medical experts came forward and went, nope, he didn't have nearly that amount. Like he didn't have
Yeah,
really all that much. 11 nanograms per milliliter of blood turns out to be not that much. Um, you
that's
know,
crazy.
so yeah, I mean, and that was like universal. There wasn't a single medical expert that came out and said like, yeah, I mean that could,
No, the
of course they're
Coors Light.
scientists, like of course they're scientists, so they're like, could someone potentially overdose? And they're like, well, I mean, maybe, because no scientist
Yeah,
will ever be like X and Y. It's just not how they work.
50 times over just to OD. I feel like what they're saying is that fentanyl's the Coors Light of meth.
Well, they all said fentanyl's super dangerous, but they were just like, statistically, from what we see of people who are still living, people have on a regular base. Like he was in the
Well,
lower.
now how many homeless people are they testing?
It was a lot actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was like so from like these 2 years we had about 6,000 cases that we did tests on, and here was the average. George Floyd's level per milliliter of blood was in the lower 10 percentile. So actually, there's about like 80% of the people who are significantly higher than him, all the way up to like massive, intense overdoses, who are like all still alive. And it was like,
so even if it does
fuck.
squash the notion of an OD, I mean, does there there was still a compelling point to show that his knee wasn't even on his neck. So how did he just stop breathing? Like how did he die? You know what I mean? So
Well, I mean, going through what Tubin had talked about, so it was simultaneously the fact that his chest was up against the asphalt. Derek Chauvin's knee was also on his back, as well as it was on his neck. And George Floyd's arms were cuffed behind him. So what essentially happened was his lungs had nowhere to expand. So even as the whole you can talk, you can breathe thing is that guy was like, actually no. He's like, I actually really hate that phrase, because in this position, every time he talks, think like an anaconda constricting you. Every time he talks, his lungs can't get more air than what they expended to talk, and the more he screamed and yelled, the less and less and less it got, and then the more they sat there on top of him, eventually his lungs could not expand to keep enough oxygen in his blood to keep him alive. And like I said, if you listen to the Tubin thing, like his entire testimony, it's he lays it out to where even if you're not a medical expert, you're like, ah, I see. Like,
well, shit.
shit. you know. After that, I figured they'd get third degree, but the second degree manslaughter was the one that really kind of blew my mind in particular,
Oh, yeah.
because that one was the one where
Well,
it's
all
like
three
he had
was a
intent.
huge shock, but the second degree certainly, because
Uh,
it showed that he had the intent.
Yeah, after listening to the prosecution's medical expert witnesses, I figured I figured the third degree was locked in. The manslaughter was always locked into me. I was like, there's no way he doesn't get manslaughter.
Yeah, I felt pretty confident in that too, just
You know,
because, I mean, you can't just right, because the context of that would be it's involuntary. It means you killed
yeah,
somebody without
yeah,
intent to kill. So
yeah,
it's like, did you do that? Did you kill somebody without the
yeah.
intent? Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
say you
I
kind
mean,
of like
like
you
if
didn't.
me and you were in the same room and you started having a heart attack and I just watched you, like they could get me for manslaughter. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, well, you didn't do anything to fucking help the guy. you know?
yeah, right. And not even to play like somewhat of a devil's advocate because I support the police. I'm a big supporter for it. Do I believe there's some shitty cops out there? Absolutely. But the first thing I kind of said on that was, police officers have more than just one role, and it's not just to, like go out and apprehend suspects or stop violent crimes and such like that. But they also
Yeah,
are still to
absolutely.
serve, and so when you're under their custody, you're still, I feel like once they've detained you, you're still under. I feel like the officer has that level of responsibility for your safety and well-being
Yeah,
point. And so this is where I kind of had that heartburn. It wasn't a personal jab to Derek Chauvin, but more so that when he had George Floyd, detained. I mean, they were decent to the guy from start to from the get
mm-hmm.
go. They did his thing, and then he resisted a bit, so they reacted the way that they
Yeah,
did. I love that was completely justified, but it's like when you have somebody who's kind of not moving so much, at what point does your responsibility end? So that's where I was like, you're still
yeah,
responsible for this guy, protect and serve. if you wanted to kill him, you would have just shot him, but you didn't. So what are you doing? Your job, right? So this is where I had some heartburn. I
Yeah,
thought that
absolutely.
you can't really say like as an officer, like, well, I was holding him for as long as I could. Yeah, there was a violent group outside. Yes, you had backup. Uh, at what point do you go, hey, this guy's not responsive? Or
Yeah, and
maybe
that
I
and
mean
that's and
adrenaline.
that's what all of the police training experts that came up and talked about. They were like, yeah, the second every single one of them was universally consistent on this point where it's like, yeah, when you have a suspect who is unresponsive, you are immediately supposed to start checking their pulse. And then they'd sit there and go, all right, so you're going to watch this video. At any point in time, did any of the officers check the guy's pulse? And all of them were like, no, that never happened. And at that point, it was, I was like, well, manslaughter's a fucking definite. like that's
Kinda. Yeah.
locked
I mean,
in.
it would be
Um,
shitty if like I was having a heart attack and a cop detained me because I was acting like a fucking asshole having a heart attack, and then he just left me to die.
that's
you know,
literally not what
like
they're supposed to do. Yeah, yeah,
right? Like,
um,
Jesus.
yeah. So that was that. It is what it is. I know that they're going
Is
into appeal for all the things that came about that. And honestly, if you
yep.
watch the entire case, it feels like a pretty locked in case. Like if you go through and you watch the entire case, like there are times where you're like, ooh, okay, that's a new little bit of new
I can't say
information,
all the
that kind of
charges.
thing. I'm sorry, what'd you
I
say?
wouldn't say all those charges are locked in.
Well,
I think the second degree is a reach for sure.
well, I believe the second degree is it's essentially how they have the second degree. So that's been something that even I screwed up early on. Was there was like, okay, so the second degree implies a certain amount of intent to kill.
Right.
But actually, that doesn't seem the case. Even the judge said so as much, where it was like, hey, the second degree gets into the realm of you assault someone with such force that it's reasonable to assume that they would die from the assault. So, like, you know, if you
It's
held my head,
fun
if you
for them
opened
to
up the
back.
refrigerator door and put my head in the refrigerator door and slammed the refrigerator door in my head, maybe you're not intending, maybe you're just looking to fuck me up, but reasonably, if I die from that, it's like, well, you
Yeah. No,
probably should have
I,
known that that could have been
but there was
lethal
even
force.
some experts that had even said that that's a pretty common practice for police to do as a means to
It was even in their training. Yeah, it was even in their
right.
training.
So
But when you combine that with the sheer fact that he did that thing in the training, they go, "This is how you can restrain someone." It's absolutely there in the Minneapolis Police Department's training guide.
yeah,
You are absolutely correct. But also within that training, they do make it very clear, and they had several people coming up on training that Derek Chauvin on signature had done in the last 2 years. So it's like he's within his qualifications for all these trainings and things like that. That he that it's like, yes. Also though, as soon as they're fucking non-responsive, your ass needs to take a pulse. So like, no, almost no one disputes the first 15 minutes of any of the officers' interactions with George Floyd. It's the last like four that are determine everything. It's the last four where if you're going to find any kind of fault or guilt, that's where you're finding, because that's where
sure.
it's like, wow, because I mean he was unconscious for quite a while, quite a while, and
Yeah.
everyone was just kind of like just waiting for the ambulance to show up. And pretty much every police officer who is a training expert, like all the people who do all the training, were all like, no. Even the police chief was like, no. Like the second a motherfucker is unconscious, you're supposed to start putting them. You're supposed to start like CPR and resuscitations, and all of them were like, none of that fucking happened. Not one bit of that happened to a single person. Um, so
Yeah.
that's where that
Yeah.
came in. So like I said, if you go through and you watch, and it's super boring, and I don't blame anyone for not watching it. It's just incredibly boring for me to watch. But if you go through and you watch the trial, the prosecution made a really good case. Like the defense made a really good case, but the prosecution made
I
a
think the
really
defense is
strong
solid on a
case.
lot of their points too.
Fuck yeah, I would
Uh,
take. God damn, now I can't remember his name. Nelson. I think his last
was
Eric
it
Nelson.
David?
Yeah, I think it
Was
was
it Eric?
Eric. I want to say it was Eric Nelson, but I would take George. I would take Derek Chauvin's defense attorney. He did a fucking bang up job. He just had the deck stacked against him.
You're right. Um,
So we wrapped up on that.
yeah. Hang on, let me see this. I can't remember the defense lawyer's name now. It's gonna kill me.
I'm almost positive it's Eric Nelson.
It was Eric Nelson.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm ever in Minnesota for whatever reason and I need a criminal defense attorney, I'm calling that guy. He did really well.
Yeah, he really did. It's a shame what happened. There was a lot of things that it was a tough decision. I mean, yeah, I think the second degree was a bit of a reach, and then of course the appeals that are going to come up. I would like to see again. The fair trial is obviously the big key to that. I don't feel that it was entirely fair. I feel like there was some things that kind of led to some influence or that led to some bias in the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how I couldn't.
I couldn't see. I would be just as disturbed if Derek Chauvin walked. If he just got acquitted. I'd be quite surprised even on that notion.
Yeah. I mean, like if it had been the flip side of like, not guilty on all charges, I'd have been like, whoa, like, wow.
I mean, I get he was on fentanyl drugs, but we're gonna say that on drugs. We're not gonna get him for anything. Not
even the man's. Yeah, like, yeah.
Right. So, but with the appeals, I think the problem with that, I don't think I
don't think the appeals are going to go anywhere. I think even if he gets an appeal, he's still going to jail. I mean, the prosecution will run the exact same game plan and go, this still works.
I hope second degree goes, because I that adds to his sentence. Again, I don't expect him to walk, but I hope that to give this guy this full slap. I feel like he was made an example of, and I feel like that example was made by people, by like the BLM that were outside protesting, some of the jurors kind of harassment. And then, of course, Maxine Waters had played influence, and a few other politicians played influence to that.
Yeah,
that wasn't entirely fair. I mean, even the judge.
I think the actions of Maxine Waters were absolutely inexcusable. But that's for her voting. That's for her voting populace to decide.
Even worse enough is like even our president kind of, not to say that our president shouldn't voice an opinion, but Jesus Christ, the president's supposed to play that middle ground perfectly to say, this is unfortunate and this is unfortunate. And instead what he did was he said that I hope we get, how did he word that? Yeah, I hope we get the right verdict. And he goes, I say that because the jurors are questioned. So it's like, I know they can't hear me, but I hope we get the right verdict. Like, come on, Joe, you're not supposed to post an opinion, man. This is a pretty serious deal here. This is a man who has a family, and a guy that had a family. Mm-hmm. Now, you ain't. What's funny was, did you ever see? And we can shift here real quickly. Jesus, I watched a clip on this with Glenn Beck. Of course, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Glenn Beck. He's super Christian.
I know him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not hard Christian, like that. But he's always interesting to watch, and he made a really good point. He said that, he wasn't siding on anybody. He had his opinion, but he wasn't siding anybody on the Derek Chauvin outcome. But one of the things he made point to was that understand that what we have is we have somebody who died, whether he was doing positive in his life, trying to turn it around, trying to do this, he's dead.
Yeah.
His family lost, somebody. And then you have another person, Derek Chauvin, a police officer, who's going to go to jail, who loses their family. So we have two people that lose, regardless.
Absolutely.
The point that he makes up here was that in an ideal world would be like, look at he brought up. Do you remember the Amish? There was a serial killer that murdered a handful of Amish.
An Amish serial killer? No, I've never heard about an Amish serial killer.
This was crazy. I heard this a while back.
Out there fucking up doing like carriage drive-bys and shit.
I don't know the full scope of it, but there was
clip, clop, bang.
He killed a few people. He went to jail,
Just a
processed,
few.
gone. Right, fine. What did the family do? The victims, the Amish family that were the victims, they
Yeah.
went to the family of the killer and grieved with them and said that we
Yeah.
lost something important on both aspects here. They grieved for the mother that lost her son that went to jail for doing something fucking batshit. So it's like it's a good pure point. Obviously, it doesn't always happen, and
Yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about that. Like I don't you know,
not
I've been in rather large court cases with my own family and shit like that, but I mean like I don't think I could look at the other family and just be like, yeah, no,
no.
don't worry. I'd be like, no, fuck you. Like, get the fuck out of here, you know?
I
And the
mean, I
Amish,
can't say
and let's just be honest, the Amish are probably better than all of us. So, hey,
one
good,
hundred
good for
percent.
them.
I think it's a fantastic model. I don't think I'm any better on that note as well. I mean, I'm a pretty bitter person, and
Yeah.
I have my vices for sure. That's why it's like, well, it was interesting to hear, someone like Glenn Beck report something way above and better than I can
Yeah.
ever be. Maybe inspiration, but it was unfortunate to see what happened because I don't feel like it was entirely fair.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what the appeals play out. See what they do in it. I hope they do it in a different state. I hope they get something unbiased where they lay out all
Yeah.
the details, all the facts, all that good stuff. And
Yeah, I think they need, I think they definitely need to do it just to put a pure close on it with no quabbles whatsoever, you know, just like it's done.
it needs to be
Um,
equestrian the whole fucking time.
yeah, that, yeah,
It could not.
there were several of those things that came around that were just like, what are you guys
Some of the
doing?
jurors were going out talking about it after the fact. Like, yeah,
Well, and
man.
not only that, but it was actually super unsafe for the jurors themselves because you had like you had people who were out there doing like old school mafia tactics, which was like as jurors leave, have people wait and take pictures of them and figure out who the fuck they are. So it's
Yeah,
like you better get that right verdict, motherfucker, or else. And that's
yeah.
just like that's super bad.
There was already one that got threatened. So yeah, there's one juror that's going to turn a vote.
All right, so yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll certainly be interesting.
It will be.
But let's jump on to the next bit here. You know a little bit more about this than me, but it is rather interesting. But Caitlyn Jenner running for the governor of California.
Oh man,
I saw a bunch
that
of the memes of like her in like a Trump hat behind a car running people over, and I thought that was pretty fucking funny because that is absolutely something that like Caitlyn Jenner just got a total fucking pass for, aside from South Park, you know?
sure.
Um,
I know. No, this is something straight out of Bizarre World. I mentioned this to
oh
Dana.
god,
And
yeah.
I said a couple. I think it was a week or two back when it was first mentioned that she was going to run. I said to Dana, I said, "Hey, Caitlyn Jenner's talking about running for governor for California." She goes, "Shut the fuck up." I said, "No." I said,
Yeah,
"Really?" She's
for real.
for sure. Then shit, she's in the top three.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily surprise me. Isn't she running as a Republican too?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Oh
dude,
my
she's running as a
god,
Republican.
that's so wild to me.
I know, I know. So yeah, man, I have been. I don't want to say that I've been intently following it, but I think it's so fucking crazy because of the fact that she's a
I'm about to start intently following it. It's
like
great.
when I heard. Yeah, dude, it's nuts because you have well a shitty governor in California that I was really curious as to how the impeachment was going to be for him because they wanted like 200 and some or they needed like a couple million votes, 2 million votes, 2.5 million votes to get um
Couple
uh,
million, 2 million, 2.5 million, somewhere in there.
right. Who's the current governor there? I can't think of his damn name now. Shit.
Yeah,
Um,
God, if you had
fuck.
asked me at any point in time before this, I'd know
I
because
know I would
he's
too.
been in the news so much. Well, you had Cuomo, who's New York, and then DeSantis is Florida. Like these are the big governors that I know of.
Uh,
Cuomo, New York,
uh,
DeSantis in Florida, and God, is his name Reed?
I know
Is
it's
that the
gonna
guy over
fucking
there?
kill me.
Joe Rogan was bitching about him forever until he
Gavin
moved to
Newton, not
Texas.
Gavin. Is it Gavin
Is it
Newsom? Not
Newt?
Gavin
I
Newsom.
think Gavin Newton. I think you might be right. I think it's Gavin Newsom. I think it's Newsom.
Jesus Christ, give me a fucking name. Yeah, Gavin Newsom. All right,
Gavin Newsom. Yeah.
Gavin. I was
We're
like,
not
that's
complete fucking idiots. Our high school
that's right.
educations have pulled through.
I was faster than my computer, although my typing skills was piss poor. Anyway, yeah, so that little fucking turd biscuit, I was hoping to see him get impeached, and that was months ago, and so that didn't happen. And then Caitlyn Jenner appears, and she's swinging Republican as a trans woman who is defending sports, which I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Caitlyn Jenner's out there like, listen, when I ran as Bruce Jenner, that was fair. But the rest of you fuckers.
Well, and it was great. So, she's apparently doing pretty fucking good.
I would imagine. I mean, it doesn't surprise me necessarily. She's super famous.
I
I mean, look at the other most famous governor of fucking California, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I thought that was bad until this is California for you.
I know. Right?
You go from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I thought was crazy, and then you go from Curd and Turd Biscuit, who's, and then you have Caitlyn Jenner. So hey, man, whatever. But yeah, Republican trans woman who was great. In the clip that I saw where somebody had asked her on the fly, she was like walking her dog or something.
Yeah.
And he was asked by a reporter, "Hey, if you run for governor, how do you feel about cross gender, or having mixed sexes in sports?"
Yeah, male to female transitions in female sports, because no one gives. On that note, no one gives a shit. If you're female to male and you want to go power lift, and you want to go compete with the boys, no one gives a fuck. But if you're male to female, that's the only one anyone gives a shit about. But that's also because in all male leagues, they allow any female to come in. If you're a female and you want to go play for the Major League Baseball, you can. You just won't make the cut. That's always been the thing. It's if you want to go ahead, try out for an NFL team. Feel free. It's just your ass won't make the cut. Why? Because you're gonna have some 6'4" soccer player who just boots the ball 80 yards. You're just never gonna be able to pull that off.
I can't. I was trying to find it. There was a thing. God damn it! I wish I could have more information. But there was this kid or this guy.
No, this we don't have a video to watch, so this video is feelings don't care about you. It's Bizarro World Ben Shapiro. It's just gut. It's just gut and balls.
That's right. Yeah, and we're always welcome for the fact check. So if there's something that we missed, we'll always gladly.
Someone in the comments will clear it up for us about where
they'll hold us
pieces of shit.
More or less posting an opinion, but I'm pretty sure I saw this thing. With this kid or this guy who went and like you or me, right? Well, mostly you. I'm like, if I went into wrestling, I'd fucking die. They'd snap my arm in two. So
I'm not in shape anymore.
Well, you still got more meat than I do. So this kid goes into girls wrestling. He goes in as he says, "I'm a woman." So he says, "I'm a girl," and he chokes the fucking wins. I think he won a championship. He beat the shit out of these women. What did he do? Didn't do nothing with himself. He just shaved his face and went, "I'm a girl."
The most insane one. I mean, this is where I just have to fundamentally understand that the current generation in high school and middle school are just far different from our generation, because I know for a fact, you can ask when next stream when Jakai is on. I guarantee you, you can ask Jakai and he'll be like, "No, Nigel would absolutely fuck down this shit." But if they had gone their gender neutral bathrooms at the high school, I'd have gone and taken the foulest shits in the girls' bathroom every day, not shaved, not done anything, just pulled a total Cartman or just put a bow in my hair and walked into the girls' bathroom I didn't give a fuck, I absolutely would have fucking done that. And I mean just because I'd have been don't you see how absolutely ridiculous this is? This is so stupid. So I mean yeah, so I mean sure, whatever. I laugh about this because when I first heard that kind of thing come out where it's all this question about gender and things like that are coming out, I'm you're absolutely going to have some athletes who are high school or athletes who are just going to be trolls, and they're just going to go, I want on the girls soccer team, and then just fucking run over I totally would imagine some troll like me who was living in Minnesota or North Dakota where they have hockey, and it's I want to be on the girls hockey team, and then just fucking just annihilate some 110-pound girl just on a regular basis.
keep out there, if you keep your ear to the ground, there was
Yeah.
the wrestling bit that's great because the caption that I've seen on the females wrestling is this guy. Like it's look, I'm pretty feminine sized, right? I'm pretty small. It's like someone who's meaty like you got this girl in a fucking arm bar, wrenching on her neck, on her back, and the look on her face is this like she's dying. Like, oh my fucking god, I
Yeah.
grossly underestimated how
Yeah.
strong he
Yeah.
was. I mean,
Yeah.
shoot. And and so there's like that one troll. There was another one too that
There,
came up where like
listen,
a guy
listen.
that went
I'll
into
I'll
like
say there are
like
some transgender people that I will respect with their pronouns, and there are other transgender people that I'm just like, fuck you, like absolutely not. The one for
dude.
me, for the one for
I
me
have
is that fucking dude that was on the rugby team, and then you just saw him just fucking annihilating females. I mean, it was so ridiculous. He just sit there and run through like a pack of three females, just fucking like curb stomping the shit out of them. It was insane to watch. And so for that dude, I'm gonna is like, well, you need to respect my pronouns. I'm a female. I'd be like, you know, you're fucking not. Like, you are absolutely not a fucking female. It's like,
dude.
yeah,
I
yeah. Andy
yeah
Dick is closer to being a female than you, sir. All right, like let's just calm it the fuck down.
yeah
Yeah, there are
yeah exactly.
professional, like there are professional female athletes who are like nowhere near as massive as you are, sir. Um, you know,
Also, right. So one of the things that it drives me nuts about the whatever you want to do trans, that's your thing.
yeah,
It's the 1980s of cross dressing, fine. But when you started incorporating it into society and creating it like these really like you're saying like the bathrooms was one thing that was kind of like so fucking bizarre and had issues in its own if you looked for it. Now you're
mm-hmm.
looking at sports and well now you're seeing these issues. So when you have a trans woman, well, sorry, trans man who is moving into this domain, who was an
Don't
Olympian,
you have the
an
flag
athlete,
up? What are they doing?
who was an athlete, and then what's that? Oh, the flash.
Yeah, I mean, shit. That was the your house's sock on the doorknob. Do not disturb. What's she
I
doing?
know. Well, she don't listen.
It's all right. I love Dana. It's fine.
She's great. Yay. Do I have a phone charger? Do you like it?
You want to know why I love Dana? Is because she's on camera and it's about to go live, and she's not the kind of female that's just like, no, stop it. I don't have any. I'm not dressed up. It's fine. Stop
I
it.
don't
Don't
want
record me.
Damn it, Nigel.
I don't give a fuck.
There's that Tennessee girl.
That's what I like. I mean, that's why I love Dana. She's always been that way.
No, I'm gonna plug it into the
Okay.
blue thing.
Best of luck.
The
Okay.
blue thing. Super descriptive,
Okay.
highly technologically advanced. College education is showing.
We have USB cables on our outlets. So anyway, so Bruce Jenner is an athlete who, to a reporter, asked if you were going to support this cross gender of athleticism. He said, no, it's unfair. It's unfair. Plain and simple. Men are just stronger, superior, and faster at sports than women.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just how that ends. There isn't enough like that. That is the equivalent of steroids.
yeah.
Only you're giving it to the male.
Yeah,
like,
only there's literally only there's like no terrible side effects afterwards. Yeah.
like how are you justifying? Like, can you imagine if it was like boxing, and a guy went into female boxing,
We actually have that example in Fallon Fox in MMA.
and so you're basically giving.
Yeah,
excuse
she like broke a chick's skull. Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck, man! At what point do
Yeah.
we say that's not good?
Well,
You just
and
gave
the thing that comes up after that is like, well, Fallon Fox was beat by females, and it's like Fallon Fox was not a particularly great fighter, and Fallon Fox was beat by females who were champions, like champions. Like, you know, no one's gonna sit here and argue that, like, listen, if Ronda Rousey walks in this room and decides she wants to shove her finger up my butthole, there's nothing I can do to stop that. Like, that's gonna fucking happen. like that's just gonna happen. You know, so I mean, like, no one's disputing that there are certain really high level females that like are better than most men, but like
for sure. The
on average,
man,
like that's like
level.
on average that's not going to happen, you know. So it's like, well, Fallon Fox was beat. It's like, yes, Fallon Fox was beat by champions.
People that knew how to throw
Come
really
on.
good fight.
Yeah,
I mean,
by
a
some of the
really
best female fighters that like have graced the octagon. Like, yes, no shit.
yeah,
She
that was
like, God, I can't remember her name now. She recently like she fought not that long ago against God, I can't remember anyone's name now. The current 145 the Lioness. She beat Ronda Rousey. She beat Holly Holm. She beat Miesha Tate. I mean, she's right now considered the greatest female MMA athlete of all time.
for MMA.
Amanda Nunez.
I
Yeah,
just got the name.
yeah. And it's like the woman
Oh
that
my
beat
God,
Fallon Fox recently.
doing this, dude.
Dude, she's got like Mike Tyson power
Fuck,
for a female. It's
there's
wild.
no gap. It's
Yeah,
huge right here.
it's wild. She's thicker than a Snicker. Um, but yeah, she knocks bitches out. And like the woman that beat Fallon Fox recently just fought Amanda Nunez, like I think last year, and like
Yeah,
did
maybe.
fine. Did pretty well against her. So that just means nothing to me. So
Yeah.
But anyway,
No. Yeah. So as far as Bruce Jenner going, that's crazy. I'm gonna continue to fault just because I think it's kind of ridiculous, and it's not my state, and California can suck it.
I hope she wins. I'd love to see it.
She
I'd
is
love to
the
see it.
least of the turds
It'll
running
throw so many like super woke people for a complete loop on like their rhetoric, because it's
Well,
like which do
actually-
we play, like the oppression hierarchy, because like Caitlyn Jenner stacks higher than most people now on like the oppression hierarchy, so therefore has more status, but
Yeah.
she's running as a Republican, so we have to like hate her, so it's like it'll be really funny to see like where these logic trains
Yeah.
run.
I'm curious
Most
to see if
people
she flips-
most of the woke people would probably just straight up dismiss her if I had to take a guess.
Oh, sure they will. Well, a lot of so that's
And
the
they're
funny
right. And on the note, the right will deify her. Like that'll be the
So,
annoying
like-
thing from the Republicans is all of a sudden the Republicans will be like Caitlyn, like we'll pull up videos of them like 4 years ago where they're like, this is an absolute travesty against fucking morals. And then now that she's running as a Republican, they'll be like, oh, Caitlyn Jenner is, I think, one of the best political activists of our time.
Well, to the,
Okay, guys.
to the irony of that, real quick,
Let me know if you guys have to call up a hospital for that fucking whiplash. Like, fuck.
right? Yeah. So to the irony on that, real quickly, is so with her running, the left really kind of started attacking her hard because she's a Republican running in California.
yeah.
They started stabbing her hard, which I thought was really funny and ironic because we forever. I mean, I don't see too many hard Republicans that are super supportive for the LGBTQ community, and more specifically,
There's
the
more now
trans
than there ever was, but
community.
yeah.
There is, but the Democrats for sure were open to that. They were the supporters for that. They were like, "Hey, you do you," and so the fact that they're attacking what I felt was the public OG of the trans community. I mean, when Bruce Jenner went out and
Yeah.
said that, "Hey, I'm a woman," people were like, "What the actual fuck?"
yeah, I
So
mean,
now that-
you could make a correlation of like all transgender
Yeah.
news stories in the modern day all come back to no one gave a fuck before Caitlyn Jenner,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so the fact that they're going after her and her campaign is kind of ironic. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this little game of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention to it at all aside from a couple memes, but I'm about to get balls deep in this whole topic. Like just figure out what the fuck is going on. Poor choice of phrasing, I guess though. All right, moving on to the next thing. My personal Lord and Savior, Jordan Peterson, being written up as the Red Skull by Takashi Coates in a full-blown Marvel comic, like in that, like a legit Marvel like mainstream. It wasn't like some side story. It was like the mainline Captain America, and I mean it was a pretty it was very obvious. There was no like, well, maybe there are some coincidences here. It's like, no. You guys wrote Jordan Peterson as the Red Skull. Yeah.
I heard about this. I didn't know there was a full comic put out on it. I mean, I see the clip, but I didn't think it was like sent, print, released, out in the ether.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah. Jordan at first, the thing that I found weird about that was like, people were giving Jordan Peterson shit for being mad about this for like a day, and then I just looked at people where they're just like, well, I mean, he's just gonna have to get over it. Why would he be upset? And I was like, well, I mean, you literally wrote him as a Nazi in your fucking like not just a Nazi, like the Nazi in your fucking comic book. I guess we could get into a conversation of like currently, like in today's day and age, for whatever reason, people don't understand why people would get really upset when people call them a Nazi. I think that's really strange.
I feel like it doesn't really warrant an explanation. I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, but like people just don't get it. Recently on another podcast that I listen to pretty regularly, Adam friended. He was doing a running series where he had a friend of his, because he lives in California and he's really more of like a centrist. But he had a friend who he'd been friends with for like 20 years, and his friend came to him and said, "Hey, I want to shoot a documentary similar to like the Red Pill." And I'm super SJW liberal. I've grown up in California my whole life. And you're my friend for a long time. We grew up together, all sorts of things like that. And I see you online, and you really came out of a lot of the left wing stuff. And I just wanted to see if we could do a thing, kind of like how me and you are doing. It's almost the exact same format almost. And see if you can red pill me. And Adam was like, yeah, absolutely. And after like 12 episodes where they had done like like anywhere between 2 and like 4 hour talks, and Adam had brought on like Aiden Paladin and other like legitimate conservatives to talk to him and stuff like that. And his friend kind of let the mask slip, and he just went, not really. I'm actually just recording this to try and see how like the rabbit hole goes down. And when he made the description where he said, you've got these people who say they're not right wing, or say they're not, alt-right, white nationalist guys, but, and maybe some of them aren't, but they're the rabbit hole, and they intentionally lead people to those like white nationalist sources. And Adam went, well, like, right. Who are these people you're talking about? And his friend went, well, you, Adam. And he flipped out. He was like, fuck you. You're a fucking piece of shit. Like, he felt like it was a big blow up on stream. I've never seen, I've been watching Adam for like years now, and I've never seen Adam get that pissed. And his friend had no idea. He thought he was like fucking with him. And I was like, no, fuck you. He's like, this is the last time I'm going to fucking do anything with you, dude. Like, you're a fucking piece of shit. And his friend had no idea why he was upset. And the chat was sitting there going, it's like, well, you just fucking called him a Nazi. Like what you just did was like, go like, well, you realize you're a Nazi, right? And Adam was like, fuck you. Don't fucking call me a Nazi, you fucking asshole.
Right.
So you get into kind of stuff like that. But fortunately for Jordan Peterson with the whole Red Skull thing, he's now turned around and like monetized it, which has really been Jordan's MO from get-go. He even talked about it. He was like, I've kind of found this interesting way to where I can monetize the SJWs. If I go to a place and I talk, then I get to say, my speech that I get to say. And if the SJW show up and riot, well, then it gets a lot of views and I make a bunch of money. And it's like, all right, man, like that's been his MO for years now.
Goddamn good.
I did want to be a voice actor at one point in time.
Yeah.
And then adulthood kicked me in the dick.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's what he did. And I actually want to buy. I actually want to get my hands on one of the shirts, because he ended up making a shirt that was, instead of Hail Hydra, it was Hail Lobsters. And I was like, I want to get that fucking shirt. I want to get that shirt or that hat. Like, that's pretty good, actually.
Good.
So I dig it.
But
I guess a question I could ask you is, a lot of people that I heard sit there and say things like, well, comic books don't actually have a ton of reach, whatever, it's not that big a deal. And I thought that was strange, and I guess I wonder how you feel about it. How far-reaching culturally do you think comic books in particular play in our current landscape of society?
You know, it's weird, like, because I thought about that when the whole thing transpired because I had seen, like you'd said, he kind of laughed it off, and I was impressed with him. I was glad he didn't get too salty on it. Although if he did in the
He
beginning, it
he
was
definitely
definitely
did the first day. The first day he was pissed.
yeah, and rightly so. You know, I mean, it's kind of a messed up jab to throw at somebody, but and then I started thinking about, all right, so what are the ripple effects? What are the consequences to something like that? It's such a crazy ass claim,
Yeah.
and I feel like the comic community has a pretty. I would say if you say that the comic book community is pretty small, you're probably underestimating how many people read comics adamantly. Um,
How many people
like
pay
especially the,
attention to comics based on how the Marvel movies have been the largest fucking
well,
franchise? Yeah.
yeah, yep. Yeah, and you definitely have somebody who, I don't know if Disney had a hand to play on the push for more comics to go out into the community. Now, of
Yeah.
course, the question there goes is how much of the community base and comic book readers jump into politics? There was like a weird two-handed question I had to look at. Like, all right, so you have
That's
dorks
actually
like
a
you
really
and
good
me.
point.
It's like dorks like you and me and Dana that like comics and read comics, but then how much of them pay attention to politics? How many of them give a shit about politics? How many of them opened that book and saw that the Red Skull read a book about the books and not even connotated what the fuck the reference was
Yeah.
until they saw the news and go, oh shit, that's what
What
that was?
what is the overlap between Captain America
Yeah.
readers and people who even
So
know who Jordan Peterson is?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so part of me felt like it was part of me felt like most of it was just this like really childish jab at somebody that they just didn't like.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write bad about you in high school. You're a big smelly dirt butthole,
True.
man. Like maybe 5 or 6 people read it, but you're just being a dumb dick. You're just being a jerk. So I don't know. I don't know if it was like super detrimental to Jordan Peterson. I can't imagine it was, but I could be wrong on that. I think
I mean, I think he probably turned it around to make money. He obviously has
Well,
been doing
if you're
that, but
smart, you would because, like you said, if he did make a T-shirt called "Hail Lobster," that's fucking hilarious and
that's
that's
great.
goddamn
It looks
genius.
really cool too. Like if you get a chance, like look up some
I
of
need to
those
see those
logos. Like they're actually pretty sick.
logos.
Um,
So
but yeah,
I got on that. I think the
he
community in the comic books and the nerds and the guys that like the dorks like me that read comics. I don't think they give a
yeah.
shit about politics. I think they probably overlook.
Most of them probably don't. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
probably right. I didn't even really think about that, but that's my own bias because everyone thinks that everyone
Well,
else
we
is
always
like
dive
them.
into politics a lot too. It's like
Hmm.
because I got my nose so far up in it now. It's fucking irritating.
It's a real rabbit
But
hole. Yeah.
yeah,
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 it certainly can be, but I think he'll pop back. I'm glad to see that he's back making the regular rounds on YouTube and things like that. Like he's going back on interviews, he's doing his own podcasts, he's doing his own thing again, which is really cool.
Is he still with his daughter
I'm
on a
sorry.
lot of them, or is he still with his daughter?
Not as much. He's getting back into his own thing.
Good.
The weirdest thing to come up recently with his daughter was that she recently did an interview, a full bore podcast. I think it was like an hour and a half long with one of my personally favorite rappers named Young Gravy, and it was just awesome. It was the strangest crossover event of 2021 for me. Absolutely,
That is an amazing shirt. I don't mean to cut you off. I just pulled up the Hail Lobster. Dude, that bitch looks
it's
just like
awesome,
Hyde.
right?
Why did he choose a lobster?
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that's so
Okay.
weird.
Should I do this with the
What is
Jordan?
the
Should I
lobster?
do the lobster explanation with the Jordan Peterson voice, or should I just do it straight?
If you could do it in the Jordan Peterson voice, I think it would. I think it
All
would
right.
sell better.
So, the reason Jordan Peterson chose the lobster as his logo is it was more or less unintentional. Really, the thing comes down to is that it's an explanation of hierarchies in all creatures across all time. We have similar brain structures to lobsters, and evolutionarily, we split from lobsters 150 million years ago. That was so long ago, there weren't trees. And we can take lobsters and we can give them serotonin the same way we give antidepressants to people, and they will inhibit the same kinds of responses that we would expect from a human being. So it's ridiculous to say that hierarchies were some made up by the capitalist awful patriarchy. It's completely ridiculous. And so that was like a part of his like research, in that he was proving that point, and so the lobsters became attached to Jordan Peterson, even so much so that he talked about how his classmates, if they were like having like in his classes, if they were having debates and things like that, and someone made a good point or someone got up on the other person, all the rest of them would do like little pincher motions, like top lobster. And so that spiraled into a whole Jordan Peterson meme of like everything with Jordan Peterson has to do with the lobsters.
So there's actually a thing here that says, let me see, maybe 20. Man, is it 24? Maybe it's 54. That's a blurry number. Anyway,
okay.
For 54-24, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today.
Oh, I think that's from his Quora list of because he where he got his start on the internet was on Quora, and essentially someone had gone on Quora and asked like what are some bits of advice, what's the best advice you can give people, and he had like Jesus, I mean he really just pulled a lot of things from his Maps of Meaning book, which is that's a dense fucking book right there. Yeah, but he put it on Quora, and I think his list of like advice was like the number one upvoted thing on Quora like ever.
Wow.
And that's where, and essentially, if you read 12 Rules for Life or his new book, I think it's 12 More Rules for Life. They're pretty much just shit lifted from his Quora list and then expanded upon in the book. If you get the audiobook, he actually reads the audiobook and he does a really good job.
Wow, he read it himself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I thought he's a good writer, beyond anything else.
Yeah, he's not an idiot. I enjoy his content. I really think he's a smart guy. I thought it was crazy that somebody wanted to go ahead and jab at him for almost no reason. But well, that's what we have, right? So
absolutely. Okay. We're running at a good little clip here. We've gone over Chauvin, we've gone over Jordan Peterson, we've gone over Caitlyn Jenner and some transgender issues. Getting into, I think, probably the last thing we'll go into tonight, because it's getting a little bit late. We'll end it on a bit of a light note. The new Rick and Morty trailer is dropped. A lot of your logoing now online for gaming and everything like that has kind of been revolved around Pickle Rick, which is a bit of a dead meme at this point, but you wear it well. Like you wear it well, so you stoked for this. I felt like I really liked Rick and Morty starting off, but as I keep watching it, it's starting to taper, and I don't know if it's just because like Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland are just kind of getting tired, because I feel like they thought that this would be a show that wouldn't take off. This was just like a big taking a dump. They were just fucking around, and then all of a sudden it became hyper popular, and they're like, oh fuck, like, what do we do?
Dude, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, they've gotten really intricate with the writing now, so it was interesting because to think like they would just let it go as it was and just fine, because there's a couple of good series out there, that have wrote some really good content, and then all of a sudden they just never created another follow-up season. You're like, well, what the hell?
Yeah,
they do a good job with their story writing. I mean, the season 4, right? That's where we're at. Yeah, season 4 was a bit of a letdown because they got the other Beth in it and blah blah. But Evil Morty, where did he go? Right. So there's a couple questions, but that's probably it, right? So they want to milk out some of those cliffhangers. So I'm super stoked for season 5. In fact, it was just goddamn last night. I was trying to find out how the hell I could watch it, because I heard it already released, and I'm looking right now.
I'll send you a link to a place where you can watch it.
And really? That'd be fantastic. Because I don't know.
I'll send you a link. You just gotta keep it on the down low.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like this isn't live.
I heard it was released on Adult Swim, but of course Adult Swim's website doesn't live stream or put it out.
And can we talk about how, to be honest with you, fucking god awful? Like, I have the Adult Swim app on my TV downstairs. It is fucking terrible. It never
Is it?
works. It's fucking
Oh no.
god awful. It's so bad. But they have the wildest shit on there. What did I see today? It was like grocery store wrestling championship. It's the most esoteric shit you've ever seen. And there's like times where I absolutely love it, and then there are other times where I'm just like, this is too off the wall for me.
There's a good minute every time I jump on. Like I remember as a kid watching Adult Swim, and they'd have like their commercials. I mean, Jesus Christ, do you remember when they did like that metal bit with the cornucopia? Where it was like something in the cornucopia, blah blah. In the cornucopia. Like, dude,
I
you're
almost
like,
want to. I
what,
almost sort of feel like that was like an early Tim and Eric sketch or something like that.
dude?
Um,
And I remember sitting there as a kid just watching this, going like, boy, these guys are really fucked up when they write this. Huh? They
yeah,
got it.
yeah. These guys are
So,
out there.
oh yeah, I'm not surprised their app doesn't work too well.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty strange. The unfortunate thing is that the Adult Swim website has always sucked, and the Adult Swim app is fucking god awful. So I don't watch anything on that. Like I said, after this, I'll send you a link where you could probably watch any animated series you could possibly feel like watching at no charge. So
that a good point that was made in last night in my investigation on this was that they said that it was more than likely going to end up in HBO Showtime, and
probably. That's where a lot
Hulu
of stuff
had
is going. I guess HBO Showtime. I guess HBO, their streaming service, just throwing out cash because they're scooping up lots of
Dude.
shit.
I know. Because I have Hulu and Hulu can do the HBO Showtime, and so I thought, oh shit, they might live stream it on that. To which they don't, and so anyway, yeah, I heard it released out this month. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I want to see it. I'm pretty pooped about it. On good shows though, I've been pretty happy. I've been watching. I caught some wild clips. Had to convince Dana. Invincible. I don't know if you've seen it.
Fucking love it. Me and
Oh,
Kiki, me and Kiki wrapped up the last episode of Invincible like 2 days ago, something like that, 2 or 3 days
Oh
ago.
shit, guys!
That show is phenomenal. I love
The
it.
last
They're
one last night.
Go ahead.
We watched. I'm sorry. We watched the last one, episode, because there's only 8. So we watched the 8th episode last night. But like 3 days ago, that's how bad it was. We binged the hell out of these. 3 days ago, I had to convince Dana, so I caught a couple clips on my YouTube of this guy named Omni-Man fighting around, beating the hell out of people. I was like, holy shit, this is really good. So I said, but it's really graphic. And I'm like, damn. So I go, hey, you want to watch a show? It's based off of a pretty new comic where this guy's just going on murdering the shit out of people, and it's pretty graphic. She's like, not really. I'm like,
Pretty new in comparison to like Superman and Batman, but
right?
Invincible's been out for a little while.
So I'm like, all right, fine.
It's just
whatever.
Image Comics, and like no one gives a fuck about Image Comics. Like only the most
Exactly.
diehard people give a fuck about Image Comics.
Exactly. So I was like, fine, then I'll watch it myself. So I'm late in bed watching it on my iPad, and she's like, what are you watching? And I'm like, it's that fucking show. It's the guy Omni-Man and Invincible. I said, so she got hooked on it. We watched an episode. Holy shit! And I'm gonna say, for the record of the whole story, I'm sorry. There's a spoiler. Just
yeah.
you watched it.
Mute now.
Pause it now.
Wait until I do this, and then you can come back.
I'm gonna go like 10 seconds. All right, now. So the part where he grabs the guy, his kid, from the head, and he rams him into the fucking subway, and he just dissects it and just makes him eat fucking intestines. Jesus Christ! I'm like, that's a good dad right there.
That shit was wild. Nolan is the best father, absolutely.
Oh my god.
How did you feel that the old Twister Rooney on in the first episode? Episode 1. The first episode. The ending. Yeah, the ending to the first episode.
Dude, I thought it was someone.
I didn't know anything. Like, it's generally pretty rare that there's like a superhero thing that comes out and I don't kind of already know the end to it. But like I didn't know anything about Invincible, and yeah, the ending to the first episode was just like, holy shit.
What more did that level of abuse? Yeah, that
Right?
came the fuck out of nowhere. That's like literally sitting at your table, sit at your couch, and you just rocket punch your fucking dog for no goddamn reason. You're like, what the fuck? That escalated.
Yeah.
That's literally the clip from Anchorman where they're like, that escalated quickly.
Fuck,
I
that
mean,
got out of hand.
really
Yeah,
fast.
that got out of hand so fast. Yeah, no, it's been great. I recommend everyone watch it unless you're like someone who's really
It's
anti-gore.
so good.
Understand that it was written by the same guy who did The Walking Dead, so come into it with
Is
that
it
knowledge. Yeah, Robert Kirkman did The Walking Dead and did the
really? Oh
Invincible
man.
series.
Well, it was really, despite how graphic it is,
Or
it's
maybe
really
Kirkland, whatever.
depth good story. I mean, it's good writing. It's good.
Mhm.
It was really entertaining. In fact, Dana's bummed. She's upset. She's not there. She's like, that's the last episode, so that's the end of it. So
Kiki's getting very upset with me because there's like Amazon's been out here killing it. Like if you haven't seen the Amazon original The Tick, it's great. It's fucking
is
good.
it
Yeah, it's
really?
it's fun as fuck. My personal
I've
favorite
seen
from The
the
Expanse
old
has been. I know I know Amazon didn't start The Expanse. That was on Sci-Fi originally, but Amazon picked it up, and as far as I've seen, it's fucking Amazon original. Good luck seeing it on Sci-Fi. But The Expanse is so fucking good. I love that show. The Jack Ryan series, that's been solid. Like I have yet to really find anything. There's obviously things on Amazon that are Amazon originals that just aren't up my fucking alley, like The Marvelous Miss Mabel. I'm just like, listen, that's just not a show for me. But any shows that have been Amazon originals that have been kind of up my alley of shit that I want to watch have all been really good. The one complaint I will give The Expanse, and I don't think it was just my TV, because my TV doesn't do this on literally anything else. But did you get when they were like flying, there was like a slight artifact in the animation when they would move anywhere really fast? That there would be like, as you watch them, like there would almost be like a like kind of thing where you'd see like almost like a little faded version of them as they flew away.
In Invincible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were and there were definitely times where I looked at the animation and I just went, you guys had a budget and you made the easy way out. Like if you go back and you watch where the Flash is fighting in the twist ending to the first episode, if you pay attention, it's just like him, and the animators just went like he doesn't do any of this. They just made a red outline of him in like a face, and then just went like that with red lines at the back. Yeah, that's quite literally what they did. Yeah, that's quite literally what they did. So they clearly had things where they were like, we're gonna spend all of our animation budget on these things right here, and on these other things, we're just gonna do it the fucking cheapest way possible.
He moves so fast, you didn't see him moving.
Right. Other times when you see them flying, you'll notice that it's just like they clearly have a still and they just move the background just to make it easy on them. Little things like that where it's like, if you're not paying attention, if you're just eating some popcorn, just kind of watching it, it's not that big a deal. But if you're like watching it and you're trying to like catch like Easter eggs and shit, you'll be like, wait a fucking minute. That's like my only complaint. The voice acting in it's absolutely great. The story's really fucking awesome. It's good. It's good as fuck.
The voice that did Omni-Man. I know that guy. He's the guy that does the stupid, is it State Farm commercials or something? But
yeah, it's State Farm. He was J. Jonah Jameson in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. He was the coach from Whiplash, I think is the movie called. The drumming movie. J.K. Simmons. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He did really good on that, man. I was impressed. Shit. Well, then did you catch the little Easter egg? Mark Hamill was in there.
Yeah, he's their tailor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the tailor. So I mean, that's not as much of an Easter egg as Mark Hamill is a voice actor. But I mean, he did pretty much do like a Joker but chilled out, like.
Right. So I got Dana so in tune with Batman and then the Jokers and all that stuff, and so now, and with the animated, because Leon's starting to watch the animated Batman, and so Dana's taking
Hell yeah.
this is where now she's created her unbiased or biased rather Joker. She loves Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Everyone
Now,
does. The Mark Hamill Joker from the Batman the animated series, Mark Hamill's Joker in that series was like so successful that like later Jokers, they just kind of kept that Joker around. Harley Quinn was not a character prior to in any comic prior to Batman the animated series.
Yeah. So Dana had that so in her brain that was Joker. I mean, and so when we're watching Invincible, she hears the tale and she goes,
"Wait a goddamn minute!
Is that Mark Hamill?" And I went, "Now, one of the things I like about Amazon is if you pause it, you'll see the voice actors.
Yeah.
I think that's really. I like being a dork. I like to see." I went, "No shit, that is Mark Hamill." I said, "It's definitely you. You didn't need to see that to know that was fucking Mark Hamill, but still." So I thought that was really neat. I enjoyed it. I sadly finished the season off, so I now have nothing to watch.
Well, it was super successful, so another one will definitely be coming out.
There has to.
And I mean again, they're Image Comics, so it's like, the biggest name in Image Comics is Spawn, and Spawn's gotten real weird.
I haven't seen it, but I knew they were just when I was
Spawn
a kid.
straight up never left the 90s. And it fucking shows. He's the edgiest edge boy of edgedom. Like he just is.
The animated series of that.
Yeah. I watched it. It's actually it's good. It's really difficult to follow. It's really difficult to follow because HBO clearly they were just kind of like, we'll greenlight another season, whatever.
Sure.
And but I mean, like, it's good. It's super interesting. They did it the same way that Batman the animated series did it, where if you notice in Batman the animated series, it's really dark all the time. And how they got that was they actually did inverted. Usually you draw on a white screen and you add dark colors. They had black paper and then drew all the colors on the black so that everything is super muted and super dark. And they did the exact same thing in Spawn, which unfortunately they didn't do nearly as well as Batman the animated series, because there are lots of times in Spawn where you're like, what the fuck is going on right now? like there'll be like an action scene, it's like, it's way too dark. How do I turn up the brightness on my TV a fuck ton? But it's good. Anyone who hasn't seen it ought to. It's super gory. It's very 90s, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else you want to get to before we sign off here?
I think that'll do it. I think where are we at now?
So I don't even want to go. I don't even want to go back to OVS because it'll crash this whole fucking thing. I have no idea. We're probably at about an hour and 40 minutes.
We'll end it on that, and then we could if we get comments down below, we have topics we want to hit up. Maybe somebody has some questions. We can certainly chat about them, whatever.
Unless you're that goddamn porn bot that just always sends links to porn in everyone's comments. Please stop.
I won't talk about porn.
Yeah, I don't think we'll talk about porn on this channel, unless it's some incredibly specific scenario. I don't think that'll be the case.
Were you there? Way back when we were in the Navy. We were staying at Maple's house.
I feel like this is gonna go a real weird direction.
Oh, it's a very weird direction, but it was great. So, mind you, I'm staying with Maple, and I have our apartment, so it's me, Maple, and Bree. Bree, being the sweetheart that she is, working for the veteran. She's a rescuer for the veteran office.
Darling human being.
Oh my goodness, great. She's working. Maple's just, I think he went to his bedroom, so it's just Aaron. It's me and Aaron. And so, we're sitting here fucking on bullshit about something, and when we start getting into the topic of pornography, I said, you can find anything on porn. We made a joke. I said, yeah, well, can you find a midget in a prison suit having a foot fetish to something? Or it was a midget gangbang. Or something to that weird abstract effect. So, yeah. It was fucking there. And surely
Link one didn't have to go anywhere.
As that's playing, it's a lettuce food fetish with two midgets in prison jumpsuits and this poor young lady.
Oh my god.
Bree walks into the door and says, what are you guys doing? I said, Bree, if I tell you, you wouldn't fucking believe me. So wait, she what?
It's absolutely true. No one
No,
ever
I will
told,
not
no one
talk
ever
about
told Bree about Rule 34. Clearly, because if it exists, there's a porn of it. All right, well,
But
we'll end it there. Screaming at Walls. This will be episode 3 or 4 or something like that. Do y'all have any comments or questions or anything that you think we'd like to
Yes, leave
see
it.
us
Love
two
it.
Navy veterans and idiots go over and talk about? Feel free, go ahead, leave it if you can. Like and
Yep.
subscribe. It'd be super cool if you did. I'd really love you if you did. I love him.
Just, like,
But,
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. We'll end it all there, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good one, everyone. Peace, love, and steamed dumplings. Good luck.